Good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world today, you're at the new way. Grizz and I were talking, and we decided this needed to be in a live stream. So, Grizz and I will be talking when Grizz gets back onto the screen. My fault. I didn't even realize he was off screen. I didn't bother to look. Hey, Grizz, we were
Hey,
talking. We
we
were
have one
talking.
overlay we can flash.
Oh,
That
yes.
it's us, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
no title, but we were talking about graduating students, and I'm at least throwing out into the atmosphere that we need the defense against the dark arts curriculum. But so what you were talking about graduating students and how those grad students are made is pivotal information for me. And since I won't be able to hold on to it, I wanted to get it out on a recording for the Reapers and such.
Very good. It turns out that when you get to grad school, one of the first things they tell you is everything you learned in college was a lie. We're going to tell you how it really works. And some of it works the same way we had explained, but none of it works the way you got it to work because we're going to give you new reveals that presuppose the old reveals of what we taught you.
All right. Well, that got a little wonky for me. Do you have like an anecdotal initiation that you just spoke of, as far as
Yes,
like the part where
yes,
they tell you everything you learned was sus?
I do. When I was in college, I went to a small private university on the East Coast on loans and awards so that the money didn't actually come out of my pocket. When I graduated, there was a whole fiasco, and I left and showed up at my graduate school 3 months before they expected me to be there on the other side of the country because I wasn't interested in staying there after the wonkiness that I had experienced during the final term, which
What's showing up as someone who's been to the other side? What's a jackass kid showing up 3 months early mean to you from their side?
from their side, it's like, oh boy, this guy must really not know what's going on. But my intake when I showed up in the building 3 months early was an elderly professor who was just thrilled to have me there. And
Because he
we
could put you to
spent
work.
from 1 in the afternoon till 5 in the afternoon chatting about his work. And he just got into it. And
Do you
here
remember
I
what his
am,
work was? What was his field?
inorganic chemistry, the same field I'm in.
Ah, so he was your first mentor in the
Well,
field.
he would have been if he survived the weekend. I got there Friday and had a 4 hour conversation with him. And when I went in Monday morning, he had passed away of a heart attack over the weekend.
They they had to take him out for what he told you, Lenny.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Well,
But
then
me
give us some of those
didn't
gems from
know
that
that.
4 hour conversation, my man. Or do
What?
you have to go? I said, give us some gems from that 4 hour conversation.
I don't really remember any of the conversation at all, but I
Oh,
remember walking into his laboratory and him taking out these odd looking pieces of equipment and putting them on the table, the lab bench, and showing me what to do, how to work them.
here's
And
how
he
to work
was,
the tools, boy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he was an emeritus professor. He
What does
wasn't going to take.
emeritus mean?
Emeritus means they've already had all the grad students they're taking, but they're still there on tenure. They don't have to teach any courses, but they want to still be connected. So they teach one or two of the advanced graduate courses, but they have no responsibility as emeritus to go out and give freshman chemistry or freshman biology or freshman physics or whatever the freshmen take in those bulk courses. And as a TA, this is jumped 3 months, not when I first got there. As a TA, I was put in a room with 28 different normies. A normie being somebody who's finished high school and gone to college and is there for the first day of college.
Fresh meat, fresh man.
Yeah. But I'm fresh meat too, just at the next level.
So
and developing.
TA is the first level of behind the curtain, so to speak.
Yes.
And what do you start to see as a TA?
That most of the people who were there didn't want to be there, but this was required for them, so they were there.
And those people are the ones up level didn't want to be there.
No. This is all brand new people, first required course, and the first day of the course was before their first lecture.
Okay, but are you talking to people giving the lecture or receiving the lectures?
Receiving.
Okay, so those people didn't want to be there either. Okay, I thought you were saying the lecturers didn't want to, but
no. The lecturers is totally. They have one of their professors who's on tenure talking to a class of 600 to 1,000 people.
So nobody wants to be there.
And, well, some people want to be there because they were trained in high school to get to college and they haven't yet even figured out what the pretense of learning is. And so they're there. This is the first time they've ever seen a college course. And they've got somebody who's the first time dealing with them in their situation who hasn't taken a graduate course. But the work I did in those 3-month interim was cleaning up the lab of the guy who died.
Oh, well, that's a learning opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I got to play with every one of his toys, but I didn't have him there standing over my shoulder telling me how the toy was used.
Just for that first set.
Yeah. But my role as a graduate student turned into being the person to interface the microcomputers with the instrumentation in the chem lab.
Lucky you.
And before I was done with being a graduate student, they had invented PCs sometime around 1986. So I was the very first graduate student at my school to write their thesis on a PC. Instead of writing it by hand, giving it to a hired typist, and then going back and forth making corrections to get it right.
The long stride toward automation, making jobs useless everywhere. Let's get back to the layer cake of graduate school.
Okay.
All right. So you got the students come in as the freshmen. On the top level, you have the tenured guys, which means they've shown enough loyalty to the institution. They know they're not going to say anything they shouldn't. And so you can have tenure, right?
No, well, once you get tenure, it takes the shackles off and gives you the freedom to say anything you want without them being able to fire you. And that worked very, very well up until 1992 when Bill Clinton changed the rules of the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
What happened in 1992?
One of the first things Clinton did was pass a law that said that all college professors were free agents and could receive money from a corporate industry, and the university couldn't do anything about the deal that they had negotiated except smile and take a portion of the money called overhead.
So essentially, he made it so, look, the colleges have to take bribes now.
Not only that, but it made it that the corporations had a direct link to the college professors without the intermediate of the bureaucracy of the university, so that they no longer had to jump through the university hoop system and earn their way through tenure. A lot of people just left and went into industry and took the money, but those who stayed got, instead of getting grants that had to go through the school and that, they got paychecks from the company that didn't have to go through the school.
Now, see, this is exactly why I'm trying to get people who do game master, tabletop gaming, to like come look at this reality with me, because like if like we all know that Bill Clinton was such a wonderful president, we should really go back and review what changes were made to the system by different presidents and the results thereof, and
Oh,
maybe have a
absolutely.
constitutional convention about it.
Well, that goes back to what Reagan did after Jimmy Carter, too.
But let us not get too far into the right and left winged bird that eats our souls. Um, but back to the graduating students and the formation of what. Okay, when you start becoming a graduate student, you're a fresh meat, man. What comes out at the end of the process, and what are the key changes they do to you as they form you into one?
What goes in is sausage. What comes out is a moderately good steak. It's not filet mignon, but it's not chopped meat either.
All right, but open up the metaphor and unpack the layers for me. Like
Okay.
no more
You
meat reference, but
you you get there
like you're a
when you
normie when you get there. And
right, because
what does somebody that comes out know about normies?
they know that in the big picture they don't have to deal with any of them because
Because
they have been trained to not waste their time with those people. When you get there and you get a teaching fellowship, which entitles you to be the teacher of 24 normies from a class of 500 who are in your class for a term, and you are their teaching assistant. You go through the homework and make sure it's right. When they take a test, you're the person who goes through the test and gives them the right answers. You develop a group of people that trust you and you trust them, and they're taking the course in freshman chemistry, in my case, and I'm supposed to know all of freshman chemistry down cold, even though when I got there, they told me everything we taught you in freshman chemistry is bullshit. We're going to teach you real in your courses now. So the first year as a graduate student, first 2 years or year and a half, you are taking classes that tell you what they wouldn't tell you when you were a normie in college taking those classes.
you got a sampling of one of those. What's one of the things they wouldn't tell you? It's too chemistry specific, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely too chemistry specific. Um, okay, what's one of those things? You know how acids and bases work with protons?
Not with protons, no. I know pH levels, maybe.
Okay, a pH level is a measurement of how many protons in solution.
Oh, well, I guess I knew more about protons than I thought. Yes.
Yes, and protons, neutrons, and electrons are the atom model that we chemists use.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. With the shells for the noble gases and stuff, it's very pretty.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. The point is, the word proton, when used in acid base chemistry, has absolutely nothing to do with a real proton, except that it's an ionic species of hydrogen that has been stripped of its electron. In other words, it's just a bare proton. So when you're talking acid-base chemistry and you're using pH to measure the concentration of protons, it has absolutely nothing to do with the proton, electron, neutron model that most people associate with atomic chemistry.
My immediate thought is that it's really electromagnetic fields and they don't know how to, and the proton thing is a metaphor that helps you guys understand.
I took a course called group theory, and I can parse that sentence at some time and talk about that entire stream of what it is and what it's not. And it turns out that it's not what they want people to think. And you see, Dr.
Why
Lang,
do they want people to think what they want people to think?
I don't answer questions of why other people think because I don't think the way they think. So it doesn't pay for me to go there.
I mean, I look for motives, like que bueno, and why would they do that? What's their end goal?
Their end goal is to make everything that I call a normie a slave to their system, and have the graduate students who are professionals work in collaboration against the normies of the world, so that there's always stress and always war and always a disagreement. It's very, very rare that you get a person with letters under their name fraudulent, and that everything we've ever learned in school is a lie, and everything we've ever watched on television is computer graphics imaging, because they had that, they just didn't introduce it. What was the first cell phone that they introduced? Trivia. Television. First introduction of cell phone.
Was it the BlackBerry?
No, before that.
Oh, the I
1960s
remember the ones in cars,
television.
satellite phones.
Nope, before that.
I'm not good on technological history, Doc.
Okay, Maxwell Smart, Get Smart, had a shoe phone.
The shoe phone
The
disclosure.
shoe phone that he could take off his shoe, open it up, and there was a rotary phone in the bottom of his shoe that he could talk with. But the concept of remote cell phone, where secret agent Maxwell Smart, who worked for Control, fighting chaos, had the technology of a shoe phone in 1965, 1966.
It's So you come up as a normie. Yes, I am. And you get to the next level and you see what they're doing to them, and then you see, and it's the kids get this now,
false assumption.
all of them. Which one?
I came up as a normie.
No, I not when I say you, I mean the general you. Like, this is what's
Let's
happening
not
around
use the general you or the general we ever.
No, I
We
use it all the
means you
time
and
and
I
will.
for this small group. But no, I refuse to be grouped into you and me and those sort of groups, because on human scale, it befuddles me. I am one human. All I am is the human that I am, and I am what I am. That's philosophical. I think Popeye said it. Everything they tell us,
I think God said it too.
Not a lie, but it's not the truth.
Hey, Ups. I ran through all that distillate you made. It's brilliant. It's gonna come out as a video probably.
The idea that we are characters in the world play is a level up, because your character and my character on YouTube have the beginning of something that is changing the entire way the world works because it's bringing humans back to human scale. And just having a class of freshman chemistry with 500 to 600 people in it, where they're all grouped that way as the smallest unit of human scale, is up in the 377 to 610 region of Fibonacci. It's way out there. That's a third order human sized group. And so the graduate students are the second order human sized group. And the head of the chemistry department is the first human sized order group in the flow of that chemistry. But that's a whole layer below the university system, which is led by a president who is the head of a human group, which is led by a chancellor who is the head of a next order human group. And so it goes on ad infinitum. It's just one of those really, really fuzzy things that nobody's ever going to figure out unless.
Challenge accepted.
Well, I'm explaining it to you. You will figure it out.
You just said nobody's ever going to figure it out. And I said to you,
because nobody and everybody are normie fallacies. And I try not to use those because every time the tattooed monkey comes on and says, well, nobody's talking about this, he has negated himself as a human because he's obviously talking about it and he's made himself part of nobody. So we're continually reinforcing that we're nobodies and everybody's when in fact we are all unique individuals in our group of one.
But when one declares oneself a nobody, it's important to remember the embody.
In a way, yes. And by embodying, you restore yourself to realizing that you're virtually not alone, but in reality alone, and back to your group of one, which you're supposed to be able to handle as a group of one, which is somewhat why you and I are talking right now, because my group of one is dysfunctional because of situations that I have probably brought upon myself because I needed it as a learning experience in order to understand the manipulation of time. The concept of time and the concept of space, as we take it from Albert Einstein,
that guy.
Fraud.
That guy. Good morning, Cassandra.
But the idea is that even though it's a complete fraud, it's absolutely true as a foundation of every bit of science that every person knows on this planet. And so you can't just say, well, time and space doesn't exist, because it's part of the concept of the model that we accept as true. So I'm a chemist. I've been through high school chemistry, college chemistry, grad school chemistry, postdoc chemistry, NASA chemistry, industrial chemistry, zoo chemistry, hermit chemistry, and every one of those is based on the same model of the atom, protons, neutrons, and electrons. And yet I have people there trying to tell me electrons don't exist. It's just a construct. And my answer is, you're absolutely right. Nothing is real, so there's nothing to get hung about. It's strawberry fields forever or turtles forever.
Hey, maybe I came to this place to get hung. You ever think about that? Maybe I was sent here to get hung.
See, maybe. Do you wish now to get hung?
What?
Do you wish now to get hung?
Oh, I've been the hanged man for long enough, I think.
Okay. Just checking in.
The hermit and the hanged man.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah. And it's a good model That's the same model as you had with that Western that you were working with?
Deadwood, sir.
Deadwood, sir. Yeah. I really feel badly that I didn't pick up on what you were doing as the opportunity right when you started. Because I came into episode 3 or episode 4, and if I had been there from the start, I could have role played my role a lot better. But I came into a room, disrupted an episode entirely, didn't get where you were going, and figured, no, I better not hang out here. Grizz wants to do something here. I'm not going to be helpful to Grizz. I need to leave. I don't know many people who have degrees, 3 letters after their name, that are BS, bullshit. But I do think about everything in terms of chemistry, and it takes somebody outside of the world of chemistry to ask me a question to point me to places where it's broken. Now, our chemistry of water is totally broken with absolutely no fix in sight. So I'm a water chemist who is so far ahead of the game in water that the people who should be trying to learn about water from me instantly take offense, and I get banned from places. But that's fine. I'm banned from everywhere where I'm not.
Well, it's like to me that maps to the whole brain thing where like it has receptors and like you're bumping into the wrong receptor holes, and that's how it maps in my head.
Okay. That's a good model to have. Everybody should have a model of how things work. I once had a teacher in, I think it was middle school, that we used to call Dr. Jimmy Boat, because he'd get on one of those old clunky radiators, stand on the radiator, and dance and say, sing, a philosophy is to a person as a rudder is to a boat.
A philosophy is to a person as a rudder's to a boat.
And it makes total sense that you want to keep your model of how things work up to the point where you understand that they can't possibly work that way. And instantly, at that point where it can't possibly work that way, you're being intellectually dishonest if you don't give up that perspective.
That's the thing. That's the dark night of the soul mirror, right?
In a lot of different ways, but maybe not.
Let's play with this one from Ups. It's big time. It says NDE in it, so it's OA related. Space and time are both emergent properties, not fundamental. I stand by that view. Professor Hoffman seems to be the sole voice that raises that flag from academia, and he had an NDE to arrive there.
What is an NDE?
A near-death experience and
Got
or
it. Got it. Got it.
a good ride.
I've only had like 3 or 4 of those, and each one more bizarre than the previous one. And after the impossible one, I gave up thinking that they were NDEs. They are not. They are death experiences. There's no near about it. It's just that there are so many concurrent timelines on the same narrative that your death happens in 75, 80% of them, but your consciousness is always alive, wakes up from the NDE, and has everybody who was around you when you went into the NDE still in your new timeline consciously, but everyone else who
Welcome back
wasn't
to
part of
Kansas,
that
Dorothy.
experience is now an NPC.
Welcome back to Kansas, Dorothy.
It's if
Yes.
you're in Oklahoma.
uh,
There ain't
and
no Kansas. Click your heels 3 times, and if you're
I
wearing the proper red ruby slippers, you'll get there.
yeah, but putting my feet in that? No way. Maybe that's why everybody wants to show feet. It's a Cinderella ruby slipper search.
It's yeah, and the new way, KNEWWEIGH, is we got to develop a narrative that takes us out of the old narrative, or else we're never getting out of the old narrative.
I've already developed the narrative. I'm just trying to get people to listen to me.
Yep, and I've developed a narrative, and Ups has his own narrative, and every single individual amongst us, as a group of one, has their own derivative narrative on this particular timeline.
But wait, but since you're here in this virtually not alone bubble, clearly you're weaving the tapestry of your narrative interwoven with our own, and this is the part where you write how much you got out of the experience.
I got a
In the
lot
hive
out of the
mind.
experience. I now know how to operate from this consciousness on timelines where this Lenny is dead, but the consciousness is still there, and I can get information from those timelines. I see it right now in the Lenny mythology, which doesn't work for other people, but Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump in the 2016 election.
Oh boy, howdy! I'm glad I'm not living in that one.
Yeah, and that took a huge amount of people on Earth off this timeline, off this narrative. And then in 2020, Trump didn't allow the election to get stolen. And that took another huge group of people off this narrative.
We're on the Biden fork. Yeah.
And so we're on a Trump Biden fork, where the main 2 forks from that were a Hillary fork and a Trump fork that took almost everything in the divide we're supposed to think about and changed our perspective here in this world. So what do we get? We get a world that is entirely insane and impossible, because it couldn't happen, because each of those 2 forks in the timeline go on to a world that blew itself up and all the disasters came true. Whatever we think in our own mind's eye is true until proven false. But once proven false, can no longer be held as true honestly.
Yes, but you can make it so nothing can be proven false to you.
Well, then you're deceiving yourself.
But it's a powerful tool, my friend. It's a powerful tool.
Look at how many people there who are, but then ask, are they conscious in this life, or is their consciousness on somewhere else? And oh, by the way, when you have those near-death experiences, you don't have to come back to this timeline or this narrative.
Self-deception is what we use to build our axiomatic frames, with which we instill faith, which creates the knowledge compartment from which we are capable of operating. The way that ignoring enough things is like most of our attention is a matter of skilled ignorance.
Why is it that when you type in StreamYard and you're not in their stupid little box, it changes the screen all around and throws you all over the place?
Because the keys are hot, Lenny. They're called hot keys. So, like, if you get fancy with it, the keys you're pressing do like scene changes, and you can do them with the keyboard instead of clicking on them. It's an advanced skill
So instead of putting down something that was important, thought in the moment, The stupid program took me all over the space of the
No,
screen
Lenny, you
because all the
didn't
keys are.
crawl in the talkie box. You said it, sir. You said when you don't type it in the talkie box, you got to crawl in the box to talk, like we have done here for everyone.
Well, I have attempted to get into the box. You used the universal we again, and the universal we excludes dock time.
That's true. I'm weeing on everybody but you. It's a given. On all of
Well,
the streams with me and Doc Time, which we have this graphic for. Hey, look, it's Beholder in a bubble.
but in a way, it's not because it includes every individual who excludes themselves from the universal we. And I'm not the only individual who pointedly points out that he's not part of the universal we.
Well, I'm weeing on everybody who lets me wee on them.
Okay. And we is an interesting meme that has come about in the last 2 weeks.
I like it. Big
Yeah,
fan.
with WEE, and some of the jokes are extremely funny. I'll have to find one of the Wii memes and send it to you on another way.
I don't know that I've ever really examined the difference, the mimetic significance of when the WWF changed to the W whatever it is. I think I now see that that's more pivotal of a change than I failed to pay attention to.
Yeah, and in fact,
Something.
we have reached a point in the timeline where the narrative will not be able to push this timeline much further. And they keep kicking the can down the road, which means more things are forking off, and people who have actual good reasoning facilities have gotten onto these derivative timelines. So the main timeline is shrinking and it follows Fibonacci growth in reverse. And so, continually, according to group theory, you are in a group of a certain size. Your choices are shrink the group, expand the group, or keep the group the same. But there's a lot of difference between Grizz and Lenny talking and pulling up somebody from the chat room to join us and talk than there is if Lenny had Bruce here when Grizz came in and it became a three-way talk with three relative equivalent people. 2-on-1 does not equal 1-on-1-on-1, even though they both sum to 3.
I gotta say, Doc. I know that a lot of the Peterson and the religious woo associated with the people I'm playing with don't make sense to you sometimes. But let me give you this take on Peterson that helps you understand, right?
Okay.
He came on the scene and he sold things. He said, "Stop fapping and take the fap," and that's the future authoring program.
Thank you. I didn't have a
And
fact.
he sold this all to a bunch of saps, and the overall thing was the self-authoring program. But at least they've all been mimetically trained toward authorship of narrative, and that's what primes them to go into this funnel.
Oh, that explains the AI entirely, because now the AI is individuals using Chat GPT to give back that power they were given and abdicate their responsibility.
Well, I'll take any opportunity I can find to abdicate responsibility.
Do you use it to save yourself time in your work?
Yes.
Do you use it to enhance your creativity?
Enhance. It's one of the side effects.
It's a bad side effect because now you're giving the Chat GPT the right to talk for you. But if you do it cognitively, or if you're a programmer, we might make passes for that, but it's okay. It just means I couldn't do it that way as me as an individual. You are welcome with you to do it anyway, but it wouldn't lead me anywhere. And I'm at this level where I sort of know where I'm going, but I have no idea of the mechanism to get there. So I invent creative mechanisms to get from place to place, knowing that once I've created the mechanism, in some world somewhere it's going to happen. But for it to be in this cognitive world, I have to continue planning as though it is already a done deal to happen. So I'm now looking at Amtrak, booking a 30-day trip to sit.
Let's not give the assassins any ammo. Let's not give the assassins any ammo. Don't give them too many opportunities to plan ahead.
Well, you see, Amtrak is a big fallacy too, and what they tell me isn't true.
Be very careful about how often you say the word fallacy, and if you need to wonder why, think about it. Think about it linguistically.
But my language is like the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland. You know where
We're
the
just
bunny.
in Wonderland.
Well, that's what the bunny's up there for, isn't it?
Ooh,
Have you read what
ooh,
it
ooh.
says underneath the bunny, underneath the bubble?
I see Alice at the bottom. It's pretty tiny.
Yeah, the wording that it says on the bunny is "Who the fuck is Alice?"
Can you later? Never mind. All right. I think we've given them enough for today, Doc.
I don't know.
I got spaceships to
Whenever
fly.
Okay, whenever they give me a platform, I get to be who I am is what I am, or what you are, or what. So if you see me on air, that is the character Dr. Lenny Time. And the better I portray the character Dr. Lenny Time by excluding myself from the collective we and going on thinking what I think, because I can't trust many people to think for me unless they know more than I do, in which case I give them proxy to think for me.
Well, it's distributed cognition, and it's an art form like skilled ignorance. But you know how LARP Gate Year 3 is culminating in a game of Deadlands.
Okay.
Would you be willing to either come on live or record videos reading scripts as an NPC in that game? A casting call, a radio play sort of opportunity. Think about it.
Here's the thing is that I'm currently embroiled in a LARP, which is to set up a show. And if I take on your LARP as an NPC and it takes time out of the current LARP that I'm on to set up a LARP by September, October, then I would have to take some of my effort away from something.
Well, sir,
So-
I expect you to be able to craft enough time if you decide to.
Ask me again when I'm on the west coast of this country. And
this will be culminating before September 19th, which is the official of the beginning of the fall ingression.
Okay.
Fall inversion.
Already part of LARP Gate 3.
Yeah,
I will say yes, I'll do it.
Excellent.
But if it takes too much of my focused attention, I reserve the right to bail on you.
No, it's just reading a couple lines. Make an on-screen. That way, you make an on-screen appearance if the characters interact with the right NPC. It's a thing.
Right, and you will use.
We'll talk later. I just wanted a soft
Yeah.
commit so I could attach an accountability stalker to you.
Well,
fly spaceships.
Yeah, now you're talking about LARP Gate 3, which I'm already a player of and have given you permission to do such a thing. as far as my current LARP, I might be pressed for time. As
Oh,
I
how is that possible? How
because I
is it
need
possible for you to be pressed for time, sir?
because I need to get everything in place to go to the next level. And if I don't have it in place and I miss the deadline, I have to wait for the timing to be right to again go to that next level. So it's
There's
not
windows
like
of opportunity, yeah.
if I miss the opportunity, it doesn't hang out and wait for me.
That's true. That's true. Doors
And
open and close.
so if I find that your request takes more of my time than I have allotted to that function, I'm going to flake on you.
Well, just remember that the only reason one allows oneself to experience stress is as a motivational force. And if you need to take a break from it and ohm with us.
Well,
Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this stream, Lenny.
okay. Be
I'm
well,
gonna
Grizz. I'll catch you later. And I'm going to stay on and give a close. I want to thank the audience once again for being part of this. I apologize for not following what was going on in the chat because the way it was working was such that I have trouble watching myself, but the PlayStation of StreamYard puts myself onto the screen so that I can watch myself. And that always throws me to the point where I'm having a conversation with myself on the screen, feeding back to me the things I hear myself saying. But it's in real time. There's not the 6-second delay that I would get on YouTube. And so there's something broken in the concept of time. And whether we are a real person or an NPC depends on where our focused consciousness actually is. So I'm going to say thank you to everybody who is in the stream and close the stream because we are in character, but self is part of character because self generates each character. And if I play my role properly, then what you hear me say and what the individual behind what I'm saying says are not necessarily the same things. And so it was great to talk with you. This was totally impromptu between Grizz and I getting on. And I have now committed to at least pursue the LARP that is LARP Gate 3 just a little bit longer because I personally find it entertaining. So be well and be well.